Joe Biden addressed the nation about the economic impact of COVID. Here's some of what he said.
A couple of days ago, I spoke with a school crossing guard, a server, a restaurant owner, and a stagehand. Good people, honorable people, decent, hard-working Americans from across the country. It reminded me of my dad, who lost his job in Scranton and eventually moved our family to Delaware, just outside of Wilmington, a place called Claymont. He used to say, you've heard me say it before, Joey, I don't expect the government to solve my problems, but I expect them at least to understand my problems. The folks I'm talking about, the folks out there aren't looking for a handout. They just need help. They're in trouble through no fault of their own. Nothing they did caused them to have hours cut or lose their job or drop out of the market. What they need us to understand. We're in a crisis. We need to come together as a nation.
Counterpoint, people do want a handout. They do need a handout, and they're right to want a handout and need a handout. There's no shame in that. Listen, see, this is what drives me crazy about this. He's completely framing this in a conservative way. This is a right-wing framing of the conversation. So I want to remind you, I want to give you the quote one more time. And this is the part, by the way, that he, in the tweet that had this video, the part that he quoted and put the text was this. Joey, I don't expect the government to solve my problems, but I expect it to understand my problems. Folks out there aren't looking for a handout. They just need help. They're in trouble through no fault of their own, and they need us to understand. Understanding ain't going to pay the bills. I saw a hilarious thing on Twitter. Somebody said, Joe Biden's the kind of guy, when he sees a car crash happen in front of him, he pulls over, rolls up his sleeves, runs over at 50 miles an hour, and then he says, I understand. What? Again, Joey, I don't expect the government to solve my problems, but I expect them to understand my problems. You want the government to see somebody, for example, who's going bankrupt for medical bills, and they walk up and say, I'm from the government, and I want you to understand, I get this. I know it really, really, really hurts. And I understand, and I sympathize with you. I don't care about your damn sympathy. I don't care about it at all. I need tangible, real-world, material help. And the Republicans are the type to walk up to you and be like, yeah, I don't care. I simply don't care about the fact that you're going to go bankrupt for medical bills. Doesn't bother me at all. Won't miss a wink of sleep. Whereas Joe is literally saying, yeah, the Democrats are the type to say, I understand. My heart bleeds for you. This is really difficult. Anyway, I'm going to go grab a sandwich now. Which is kind of like, well, if you really cared, then you would help fix it, right? Like, that would be the logical response. Oh, you're going to go bankrupt because of medical bills? Well, that's unacceptable. Here's a subsidy. Here's some money. But no, he's saying, like, that's not what he's for. It drives me crazy. It really does drive me crazy. Because, guys, you pay taxes to the government. You pay taxes. So, to want basic services back makes all the sense in the world. You know? And recently, by the way, Ed Markey sort of flipped the JFK quote, think not what your country could do for you, think what you could do for your country, something along those lines. And he was like, he basically said what I just said, which is like, well, actually, no, we pay taxes to our government, so of course you should get basic services in response. If you pay taxes, somebody breaks into your house, you call the cops. Should the cops not show up? Of course they should show up. Of course. That's part and parcel of you paying taxes, basic services. You want the roads to function and not have potholes absolutely everywhere. You want the police to be there. You want the fire department to be there if your house catches fire. Why is it so crazy to add healthcare to that list? That should be at the top of the list. Why is it so crazy to think that, to think about stimulus during an economic depression and a pandemic? That should be like the first thing that they're willing to do. Why is it that most other developed countries had one version or another of a wage replacement scheme. Depending on the country, it's anywhere from 70% to 100% of wages were paid out as the economy was shut down. We shut down the economy and had a one-time payment of $1,200 that's supposed to last for months. No, the government is failing miserably. And they're failing because they're not doing those material, real-world things that help people tangibly. There's no shame in wanting tangible help in a situation like this. If anything, it's not even really help. It's what is earned. It's what's deserved. Or else, why the hell are we paying taxes? And see, that's the thing. In the conception of how it works now, what we're really paying taxes for is endless war. We're feeding the military-industrial complex and bombing 8 different countries, and we have 900 military bases around the world. That's what we're paying taxes for. We're paying taxes to give billions of dollars in subsidies to fossil fuel companies. That's what we're doing. We're repeatedly bailing out the people at the top, bailing out Wall Street. That's what it is. That's what our money's going towards. So now we turn around and say, whoa, this is crazy. Our money should go back to us in ways that tangibly help us, especially in times of deep need. And what does Joe Biden say? He splits the difference between the far-right callousness of I don't even care what you're going through, and the correct left position of of course you should be helped. He's like, no. What if I understand your problems, but I don't help solve them? My job is to just understand them. He's like a caricature of third-way politics. He's like a parody of neoliberalism. This is what it is. Honestly, I'd rather have somebody not even understand my problem, but just materially help fix it. I don't even care if you sympathize with me if I'm about to go bankrupt for medical bills. All I care is that you help me not go bankrupt for medical bills. So you can say, you know what? Go fuck yourself. I hate you personally. You're a piece of shit. But here's $20,000 because that's what the medical bills cost, and we're not going to let you go bankrupt for it. But I just want you to know I think you're a giant piece of shit. I'd be like, okay, you can think I'm a piece of shit if you want. I shouldn't go bankrupt for medical bills, and now I'm not going bankrupt for medical bills because of your help. So thank you. I don't even mind that you think I'm a piece of shit. He's doing the polar opposite. I feel so bad. This is really bad. I understand your problems. I understand them. And I'm not going to do Dickie McGee's acts about them. It's a joke, man. It's a joke. They've let the far right define the terms for the longest time. Post-Reagan, every single president, to one extent or another, believed in that philosophy. That, the scariest words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. No, that era of politics needs to die. That's not the only argument. Not everybody agrees to that as a default setting. You shouldn't. You shouldn't at all. I'm much more of the FDR philosophy and ideology, and I know most of my audience is as well. The idea that, of course, the government is there. If you're going to pay taxes, the government is there to take care of the basics and take the basics off the table. Now, is there reasonable debate as to what constitute, quote unquote, the basics? Of course. And that's where we have the reasonable disagreements and discussions. You might think something's a basic and I don't. Okay, well, let's hash that out. But that general idea of no, the government, of course, can be a force for good. Of course the government can be a force for good. For fuck's sake, we massively reduced senior citizen poverty. How? Through Social Security. That's a giant success story, and it's the government. And what we're talking about in the wake of this pandemic and this economic downturn is basically Social Security for all, also known as universal basic income. But this guy's not on board with that. This guy's on board with, I understand what you're going through is very, very difficult, and I'm not going to do Dickie McGee's acts about it. Well, thank you. Thank you for your concern, which results in no material change. It's embarrassing, man. It really is. But anyway, this is Joe Biden, and this is what you can expect from him. And he's got an administration full of corporatists, as we're going to discuss a lot more on this later. I'll give you some specifics. New people that are going to be in his cabinet, and it's not good. But expect a lot more of this. It's going to frustrate you to no end.